Welcome to another deep dive. You know, I love to go deep on all kinds of topics, and today we're going to be diving into the idea of perception, how our perceptions are wired into our brains, and how that impacts our lives.
How cool.
We've got a ton of expert videos to pull from for this deep dive. Neuroscientists, psychologists, even some motivational speakers.
It's like a good mix.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And I think the question we're really trying to get at here is, can you rewire those perceptions for a happier, more fulfilling life?
I love that. That's a great question. I'm excited to dig into this.
Yeah, me too. You know, one of the things that really struck me, and I want to get your take on this, was this concept of the perception box.
Yeah.
This came from Nicole Vignola, one of the neuroscientists we watched. And she talks about how our early observations of family and peers create the foundation for these beliefs, for these perceptions, for the walls of our perception box.
That makes sense.
Yeah, she gives this really interesting example of two sisters, Samantha and Martha. Samantha was always pegged as the talented dancer and pushed towards that path, even though she secretly yearned for something else.
Oh, no?
I know, right? And then Martha, the other sister, was always the high achiever, always excelling academically and everything. But then when she faced failure later in life, she completely crumbled.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
I know. It just shows how those labels, those expectations, those perceptions that were placed on them early on really ended up shaping their lives.
It's almost like those labels become self-fulfilling prophecies.
That's exactly what I was thinking. If you're repeatedly told you're the smart one or the creative one, your brain might start to limit itself to those categories.
It really highlights the power of what's called observational knowledge. It's like the things we learn just by watching other people. It can subconsciously shape our understanding of ourselves and the world without us even realizing it.
It's kind of freaky when you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
And it makes you wonder, what labels have I carried from childhood? Do they still serve me? Or are they part of a perception box that's holding me back?
It's definitely something to think about. Like, are those labels still fitting? Do I need to relabel myself?
Exactly. But before we go too deep down that rabbit hole, I want to bring in another perspective.
Okay.
Dr. Amen, the psychiatrist and brain health expert, he's got this interesting idea that our brains are kind of lazy, like they just want to stick with familiar patterns, even if those patterns aren't beneficial.
Oh, interesting.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, from a neuroscience perspective, that makes sense. It's all about those ingrained neural pathways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're kind of like, well, they're the paths our brains take over and over again. It can be really hard to break free from those well-worn paths.
Yeah.
Even if those paths lead us to, negative or limiting thoughts and behaviors.
So it's kind of like we're battling our own brains.
In a way, yes. But here's where it gets even more challenging.
Oh no, what's next?
Our brains are also hardwired with what's called negativity bias. You've probably heard of this.
Yeah, I've heard the term, but remind me what it means again.
So basically it means that our brains are wired to pay more attention to threats and negative experiences.
And that's a bad thing.
Well, I mean, think about it. Back in the caveman days, it was super helpful for survival. You had to be aware of the dangers around you. Like, if you weren't paying attention to that saber-toothed tiger, you weren't going to last very long. But today, in modern life, that negativity bias can lead us into this constant loop of negative thinking and anxiety. Like, our brains are stuck in overdrive, always scanning for the worst-case scenario.
So we're just programmed to focus on the negative. That doesn't seem very fair.
Right. But it's not all doom and gloom. Here's the thing.
Okay. Tell me there's some hope.
There is hope. It's really important to remember that we are not doomed to be controlled by these ingrained patterns and biases.
Okay, phew.
Neuroscience has shown us that our brains are actually capable of incredible change.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that. What's it called again? Neuroplasticity.
That's it, neuroplasticity. And it's kind of a superpower, really.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It means that our brains can actually rewire themselves. They can form new connections, new pathways based on our thoughts, our actions, and our experiences.
So it's not like we're stuck with this fixed brain for our entire lives.
Nope, not at all.
Oh, that's such a relief to hear.
And Nicole Vignola, who we talked about earlier, she makes this great point. She says that it doesn't matter how old you are.
Really?
Yeah, or whether you have neurodiversity, anyone can change their brain.
Wow, so it's never too late to rewire those perceptions.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Imagine a dirt road. Every time you walk down that road, it becomes more defined.
Right.
But what if you start walking a new path alongside it? With consistent effort, that new path becomes clearer and easier to follow. It might start as a little trail, but eventually it transforms into a highway.
So we're literally carving new pathways in our brains with our thoughts and our actions.
That's a great way to put it, yes.
Yeah,
And the more we travel down those new pathways, the stronger those connections become. And the old, less helpful pathways, well, they start to fade away.
that's pretty powerful stuff. I love that analogy. So if we can literally reshape our brains, what's the best way to start? Like, how do we actually do it?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
It is. I'm so ready to upgrade my brain's operating system.
Me too.
Yeah.
And there are a bunch of different techniques we can use, but one of the most important is something called metacognition.
What?
Metacognition.
Okay, break that down for me.
It's basically a fancy word for becoming aware of your own thoughts. Like taking a step back and observing your mind like a curious scientist. You start to notice those automatic thoughts, those knee-jerk reactions, those automatic negative thoughts that Dr. Amen talks about.
ENTs, yeah. Love that acronym.
Oh, yeah. And with metacognition, you can start to ask yourself, is this thought helpful? Is it even true? Is it something I want to keep thinking?
So instead of just letting those thoughts run wild, we can choose which thoughts to nurture and which ones to let go of.
Precisely. It's about becoming the CEO of your own mind, not just letting those thoughts run the show.
I love that. Becoming the CEO of your own mind. That's going on a t-shirt.
Right. And the cool thing is, this simple act of awareness, of just noticing your thoughts, it actually engages your prefrontal cortex.
Can you remind me what that is again?
So that's the part of your brain responsible for higher order thinking, decision-making, and all that good stuff.
Got it. The executive suite of the brain.
Exactly. And when you engage that part of your brain, it helps to lessen the influence of the emotional limbic system, which is where those ANTs tend to hang out.
So it's like you're shifting the control panel from the emotional, reactive part of your brain to the more rational, thoughtful part.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
Dr. Ammon actually has a fun name for this whole process. He calls it the GLAD game.
The GLAD game.
Yeah. He challenges people to find things to be grateful for, even in challenging situations. Like, it's almost like training your brain to look for the silver lining, even when things are tough.
I like that. Sounds a lot more fun than focusing on all the negative stuff. But can we really change our perceptions just by shifting our thoughts?
Well, think back to what we talked about with neuroplasticity. When you consistently choose to focus on the positive, you're literally strengthening those neural connections. Those positive pathways become more defined, more like highways in your brain.
Okay, this is all starting to make sense. I'm really digging this whole idea of rewiring your brain. But I'm curious to explore some more concrete techniques.
I hear you. We've touched on mindfulness and gratitude, but there's a whole toolbox of techniques out there that can help us shift those perceptions.
I'm so ready to fill up my toolbox.
Me too. But let's save that for the next part of our deep dive.
Oh man, you're killing me with the cliffhanger.
I know. But trust me, it'll be worth the wait.
All right, fine. I'll be counting down the minutes.
I can't wait to share more with you in the next part of our deep dive.
You know I'll be here. I love a good deep dive, especially when it comes to understanding our brains. It's just fascinating stuff. And I'm already feeling inspired to start rewiring my own perceptions.
That's awesome. It's such a powerful journey, and I'm excited to continue exploring it with you.
Me too. All right, folks, stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive, where we'll be getting even more practical with those rewiring techniques. Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, rewiring techniques. I'm ready to hear more about these concrete strategies to actually change those ingrained perceptions and build new neural pathways.
All right, let's jump right in.
Hit me with it.
So I'm really intrigued by this whole idea of acting as if, which we touched on earlier.
Yeah, that one kind of stuck with me too. It sounds a little, fake it till you make it, but I'm guessing there's more to it, right?
Well, there's definitely a deeper level to it. It's not just about pretending.
Okay, good.
It's about aligning your actions with the reality you want to create. Joe Dispenza, one of the motivational speakers we watched, he talks a lot about this. He calls it acting as if your desired reality is already true. And it's about consistently behaving in ways that reflect that reality, even if you don't fully feel it yet.
So, okay, let me see if I get this. If I want to be more confident, for example, I should act confident, even if I'm feeling kind of insecure inside.
Mm-hmm. You got it. That's exactly what it means. And yeah, it might feel a little uncomfortable or awkward at first.
I can imagine.
But the idea is that the more you practice those confident behaviors, the more natural they become. You're literally training your brain to associate those actions with feeling confident.
Oh, interesting.
It's instead of waiting to feel confident before you act confidently, you act confidently to create the feeling of confidence.
So you're kind of tricking your brain into believing it.
In a way, yes. You're giving your brain the experience it needs to create new neural pathways.
I like that. So it's not just wishful thinking. It's about actually changing your behavior to match the person you want to be.
Exactly. And, you know, Dr. Amen's work with SPECT imaging really supports this idea.
SPECT imaging, remind me what that is again.
So it's a type of brain scan that shows blood flow
What?
and activity patterns in the brain. And he's found that, like, specific interventions, like therapy, lifestyle changes, even dietary adjustments, they can visibly alter brain activity.
Whoa, so you can actually see those changes happening in the brain.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He even shares a story about former baseball player Troy Glaus. He had significant brain damage from multiple concussions. But, like, after adopting a brain-healthy lifestyle, his scans showed, like, remarkable improvement.
Wow, that's incredible. So like proof that we're not stuck with the brain we're born with, right?
Exactly. We have way more power to shape and reshape our brains than we often realize. And Dr. Amen, he actually has a great term for that drive to improve. He calls it brain envy.
Brain envy, that's a new one.
Yeah, I love it. He says that wanting a better brain is the first step towards actually having one. He actually tells this funny story about scanning his own mother's brain and, like, realizing that hers was healthier than his.
Oh no, that's gotta sting a little.
I know, right? But he says that's what really inspired him to start prioritizing his own brain health.
It makes sense, seeing is believing, right? So, we keep talking about a better brain, but what does that even mean? Is it just about having like a good memory or being able to solve problems quickly? Or is there more to it than that?
Oh, it's so much more than that. It's about having a brain that's resilient,
Yeah.
adaptable, creative, and capable of experiencing a full range of emotions,
Yeah.
from joy and peace to compassion and, all the good stuff.
I like that. So how do we get there? How do we build that kind of brain?
Well, Dr. Amen has this handy mnemonic, Bright Minds, to outline the 11 key risk factors that can damage the brain.
Oh yeah, bright minds. I remember him talking about that. So what
Yeah.
are those risk factors?
All right, so let's break it down. The B stands for blood flow.
Okay.
Low blood flow is actually the #1 brain imaging predictor of Alzheimer's disease.
Whoa, seriously.
Yeah, so it's super important. And, like, it's not just about age either. Lifestyle factors like exercise and diet, they play a huge role in maintaining healthy blood flow to the brain.
So like we're not just talking about preventing dementia in our later years, right? We're talking about having a brain that's sharp and functioning well like right now.
Absolutely.
Uh
What's next? R is for retirement.
Retirement. Wait, I thought we were talking about brain health, not financial planning.
Well, it's kind of both, actually.
Yeah.
It's more about the importance of staying mentally engaged throughout your life, like even after you retire from your, traditional job.
So it's not about stopping work altogether. It's about keeping your brain active and challenged.
You got it. And that builds what's called cognitive reserve. It's like a buffer against age-related decline.
So it's like giving your brain a workout, just like you'd exercise your muscles at the gym.
That's a great analogy. And the more you challenge your brain, the stronger and more resilient it becomes. So learning new things, pursuing hobbies, having engaging conversations, all that stuff helps to build cognitive reserve.
Okay, so keep that brain busy. What's next on the list?
I is for inflammation.
Inflammation, isn't that like when your body's fighting off an infection or something?
Yeah, but chronic inflammation, like the kind that's ongoing, it can be a big problem for the brain. It can damage brain cells and disrupt those communication pathways.
Oh.
Yeah, it can lead to problems with memory, focus, mood, you name it. And it even increases the risk of neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's.
That sounds scary. So what can we do about it?
Well, diet plays a huge role. You want to focus on foods that are rich in antioxidants and omega-3 fatty acids, which have anti-inflammatory properties.
So like lots of fruits and veggies, right?
Exactly. And fatty fish like salmon, walnuts, and even spices like turmeric can be helpful too.
Got it. Okay, so eating the rainbow is good for the brain too. What about the G?
G stands for genetics. And, like, obviously we can't change our genes, but we can use that knowledge to make informed choices about our health. So, for example, if you have a family history of Alzheimer's, you might be even more diligent about managing those other risk factors like inflammation, blood flow, and all that stuff.
So it's like knowing your family history can give you a heads up so you can be more proactive about your brain health.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
Sure. Okay, what about H?
H is for head traumas.
Head traumas, so like concussions.
Yeah, concussions and other head injuries. It's a reminder that even seemingly minor head injuries can have a lasting impact, especially if they're repeated over time.
This makes me think about like athletes in contact sports, they're at such high risk for repeated head injuries.
Yeah, it's a big concern, and there's growing awareness about the long-term consequences of concussions.
Yeah.
But it's not just athletes who need to be mindful. Always wear a helmet when you're biking or skiing or engaging in any activity where head injury is a risk.
Good point. Safety first. Okay, so what comes after head traumas?
T stands for toxins.
Toxins. Okay, so we're talking about like environmental pollutants, things like that.
Yeah, things like air pollution, pesticides in food, and even certain household cleaning products.
It seems like toxins are everywhere these days. Is there anything we can do to avoid them?
Well, you can't completely eliminate them, but you can definitely reduce your exposure. Choose organic produce whenever possible, filter your water, use natural cleaning products, and be mindful of the air quality in your area.
Okay, so it's all about making conscious choices and minimizing our exposure to those harmful substances. Got it. What's next on our Bright Minds journey?
Is for mental health.
Mental health, right. So important.
Untreated mental health conditions like depression and anxiety, they could have a huge impact on brain function.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess I never really thought of it as like a brain health issue. It's more like an emotional well-being thing, right?
It's both, actually. When you're struggling with a mental health condition, it can really affect your brain's ability to, function at its best.
So it's not just about feeling better emotionally, it's about protecting your brain from damage.
Exactly. So if you're dealing with any mental health challenges, it's so important to seek professional help. Therapy, medication, lifestyle changes, they can all play a role in managing those conditions and supporting your brain health. And of course, chronic stress falls under this category too.
Oh yeah, stress. The silent killer. Seriously. It's so important to find healthy ways to manage stress, like meditation, exercise, spending time in nature, whatever works for you.
Absolutely. Stress management is a must. Okay, so we've covered blood flow, retirement, inflammation, genetics, head traumas, toxins, and mental health. That's BRIGHTT. What about the MINDS?
All right, so the second I stands for immunity and infections.
Okay, I think I'm starting to see a pattern here.
When your immune system is weakened, it's less able to protect your brain from damage.
So even something as simple as a cold or the flu can impact brain health.
It can, yeah. So it's important to, do what you can to support your immune system, like getting enough sleep, managing stress, and eating a healthy diet, and of course, staying up to date on your vaccinations.
Got it. Immunity is key. What about N?
N is for neurohormone deficiencies.
Neurohormone deficiency.
Yeah, it's a mouthful. But basically, hormones play a crucial role in regulating brain function, and imbalances can lead to all sorts of problems like brain fog, mood swings, sleep disturbances. Okay, that makes sense. So it's about making sure those hormones are in balance. Does this mean, everyone needs to go get their hormone levels checked?
Not necessarily. But, if you're experiencing symptoms that could be related to hormonal imbalances, it's definitely worth talking to your doctor.
Got it. Listen to your body and advocate for your health. All right, what's the last letter?
The final S is for sleep.
Sleep. We've talked about this a little already, but I'm always up for a good sleep pep talk.
Well, it's worth emphasizing again because sleep is just so crucial for brain health. It's like when you sleep, your brain finally gets a chance to clean up cellular debris, consolidate memories, and basically hit the reset button.
So when we're sleep deprived, our brains are just not functioning at their best.
Exactly. And chronic sleep deprivation can increase your risk of everything from cognitive decline to mood disorders.
Okay, I'm convinced I'm going to prioritize those zizzies from now on. But I gotta admit, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all these risk factors. It seems like there's so much to think about.
I hear you. It can definitely feel overwhelming. But the key is to focus on progress, not perfection. Start with one or two areas that resonate with you and make small, sustainable changes over time.
So maybe swapping out that sugary soda for a glass of water, or starting a meditation practice, or, getting an extra hour of sleep. Little things like that can make a difference.
Exactly. And remember, you're not on this journey alone. There are tons of resources, communities, and experts who can support you. The key is to stay informed, stay proactive, and keep that brain envy alive.
I love that. Brain envy is a good thing. Okay, this has been incredibly eye-opening. I feel like I have a much clearer understanding of how my brain works and the things I can do to protect it. But what about those specific rewiring techniques? We touched on mindfulness and gratitude, but I'm ready to learn more about how to put those into practice.
That's a great segue. Let's move on to those in the next part of our deep dive. Get ready for some actionable strategies you can start using right away.
Okay, I'm ready to get practical. After that deep dive into the bright minds risk factors, I'm feeling super motivated to take action. So let's talk about those rewiring techniques. How do we actually start changing those ingrained perceptions and creating new, healthier neural pathways?
Yeah, let's do it. We've already touched on a few key strategies like mindfulness and gratitude,
Oh,
remember?
yeah, the GLAD game.
Exactly. That's a really powerful starting point, like training your brain to look for the good even when things are tough. But let's explore some other techniques that can really help you shift those deeply held beliefs.
I'm all ears. I'm ready to upgrade my brain's operating system for real this time.
Me too. So, one of the most powerful techniques is something we mentioned earlier, metacognition. Remember, it's about becoming aware of your own thoughts.
Oh, yeah, right. It's about being able to observe your thoughts without judging them.
Exactly. So instead of getting swept away by those automatic negative thoughts, those ANTs, as Dr. Amen calls them, we can start to recognize them and challenge them.
Yeah, those ANTs can be sneaky little buggers.
They really can.
Mm-hmm.
But with metacognition, you can start to have a conversation with your own mind. Like, ask yourself, is this thought really true? Is it helpful? Is it serving me? And if the answer is no, you can choose a different thought.
So it's not about suppressing those negative thoughts, but acknowledging them and then consciously choosing a more positive or empowering perspective.
You got it. And that's where something like cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT can be really helpful.
CBT.
Yeah, it's a proven therapeutic approach that helps you identify those negative thought patterns and develop strategies to change them.
I've been hearing a lot about CBT lately. It's interesting how those, ancient wisdom practices like mindfulness are now being backed by modern science.
Totally. There's a lot of overlap between ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. Like, they're both pointing to the same truth, that we have the power to shape our own minds.
That's powerful stuff. So, okay, I'm definitely going to be looking into CBT further. But let's talk about another technique we mentioned, acting as if. I have to admit, it still kind of sounds like faking it till you make it.
I know, right? It has that ring to it. But trust me, there's real science behind it.
Okay, convince me.
So remember neuroplasticity. Your brain is constantly changing and adapting based on your thoughts and actions. So when you consistently act in alignment with your desired reality, even if you don't fully feel it yet, you're essentially rewiring your brain to support that new reality.
So if I want to be more confident, I should start acting confident, even if I'm, dying of insecurity on the inside.
That's the idea. It might feel a little weird at first, but the more you practice those confident behaviors, the more natural they will become. You're basically training your brain to associate those actions with positive feelings and outcomes.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like fake it till you make it, but with the neuroscience twist.
Exactly. It's not just about putting on a facade. It's about actually changing the underlying neural circuitry. And you know what can also help with this? Visualization.
Oh, yeah. I love visualization.
It's a powerful tool for rewiring your perceptions and creating lasting change. Take some time each day to really imagine yourself achieving your goals, feeling those positive emotions, and embodying the qualities you want to cultivate.
I love that. It's like creating a mental movie of your desired future.
Exactly. And then you step into that role as if it's already happening. Visualization helps to solidify those new neural pathways and make your desired outcomes feel more real and attainable.
Okay, so we've got metacognition, CBT, acting as if, and visualization. What else? What about our environment? Can we actually create an environment that supports these positive changes?
Oh, absolutely. Environment is huge.
Mhm.
Dr. Amen talks a lot about creating a brain-healthy environment. And this goes beyond, just eating a healthy diet and getting enough sleep. It's about surrounding yourself with supportive people, minimizing stress, and engaging in activities that nourish your mind and soul.
It's about taking a holistic approach to well-being, nurturing all aspects of ourselves.
Exactly. It's about creating a life that supports your brain's optimal functioning in every way. And remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. Progress, not perfection.
Right.
You got it. This has been such an incredible deep dive. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how my brain works and the power I have to shape my own reality.
That's what it's all about. You're not stuck with the brain you were born with. You have the ability to change, to grow, to evolve.
I love that. Embrace the power of neuroplasticity.
Yes, and keep exploring those rewiring techniques.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for guiding us through this deep dive. It's been truly transformative. And to everyone listening, remember, your brain is your most valuable asset. Love it, nurture it, and keep those ANTs in check. Until next time, happy rewiring.